What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode for the Men and Uncaged. If you don't know, this channel is all about the journey to the top 1%. And how do we get there? It's by becoming 1% better daily. So I've been given it a few fucking days before I recorded this podcast because I wanted to make sure that it was still something that I wanted to talk about, because I've actually been talking about it quite a bit over the last few weeks. And I didn't want it to be like beating a dead horse, but also I kind of wanted to beat a dead horse because it's came up so much in the weeks prior to me, like really kind of going down this rabbit hole and me getting on this bandwagon. And honestly, we've talked about this a lot, right? Like, how do you overcome anxiety? It's by doing the fucking work, right? It's, one of the Uncaged t-shirts is Anxiety 101 or Anxiety Treatment 101, doing the fucking work, right? Like, we're very, very big on, like, it doesn't matter how much information you gather, you just sit there and collect, and you never take action on it. Stoller actually talks about his dad being a financial advisor, and this gentleman would like follow them around from seminar to seminar to seminar with a briefcase full of money, and was always looking for what to invest his money in. I mean, we're talking like decades this went on, and that motherfucker died with a briefcase full of fucking money, right? Like, he had all the information in the world, but never took action. And, so we talk about taking action a lot, immediate action over perfect procrastination. Like, it's another one of the things inside Uncaged. Again, we harp on this type of stuff and at this level so much and so many different ways because, like, I hate to say that some of these, like, cliche sayings that you hear, the reason there's either a cliche or, like, people are fucking still talking about it is because they're true, or at least some part of it at some depth is true. So anyways, I went down this rabbit hole of making your own luck. And, I openly talk about it. Growing up, I was, in the skater scene. Like, I was BMX, skateboarder, like, you name it. I was in the underground mosh pit concert, emo, concert venue at skate park world. Like, that was kind of my scene. And growing up through entrepreneurship, I looked to Rob Dyrdek a lot just because he happened to be content that I was seeing on the regular. But, like, I almost feel like, obviously he's older than I am, but I almost feel like I grew up with him as a mentor before I even understood personal and professional development, because I was so intrigued by Rob Dyrdek at such a young age. I mean, he was, 14 or 16 when he became a pro skater, and, he started trading out sponsorships for, like, equity deals and some of his sponsors. So, like, don't quote me on this, but, like, pretty sure like a deck or bearings were one of his first sponsors, and he took equity ownership in those decks and bearings. And then, with the introduction of Ken Block and DC, and then, like, everything that just expanded upon that. But then anyways, many of y'all know my It's What We Do story. So I owned a clothing brand that was in that same kind of genre, as Young and Reckless, and there was just, like, a lot that went into that with him and drama. And so, like, I paid attention to him, right? And one of the things that he said over and over and over again was, like, make your own luck. And so that just kind of ended up being, for me, it was more, let's be honest, at the time it was more of an egotistical thing. It's like, I see this life that I want, and I'm going to fucking go make it happen, no matter what. Like, no one's going to hand me shit. This isn't like a must be nice story. I shared a lot of the grind, so, like, this wasn't like some sort of overnight success kind of deal. Looking back at some of the stories that had been told, because, like, there was such a huge period of my life where, like, some people didn't think I was going to make it. So I got to hear some of these stories of what people believed about me while I was still alive. And, like, at the time, that was, like, massively motivating, looking at how people viewed either my work ethic or just, like, my core values and, like, what I stood for and the kind of the human I was. And a lot of it came down to, like, this motherfucker works, that was a big thing, Heather and I, when we were, going through learning how to be high achieving, in the professional development world, but also still maintaining a high level, in our personal world with our relationship. And we were on a, trip to Cabo, and I believe it was like Bobby and Sophia Castro or Keith Craft's room we were in, and, listening to my wife say, I've watched this dude, for decades. If he said he was going to do something, he fucking did it. And so she wanted that level of tenacity in our personal life too. And so that was like a fucking earth-shattering, nugget for me. But when I look at like this like progression of my work ethic and this like, man, honestly, this level of education that came behind Make Your Own Luck, because originally when that seed was planted, it was very much egotistical. Like I was very much like, motherfucker, if I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to do whatever it fucking takes to do it. And you're going to sit there and you're going to fucking watch, through all the adversity and growing, in the city that I lived in and the vicious competitiveness that there was at the time at my time, like such a young age. You look at immaturity, right? You have several different groups that have these like clothing lines or brands or lifestyles, and even like, I guess, influencers before influencers were a thing. And so you mix that early onset lack of education with also, a lack of maturity. And it was like a fucking pretty vicious world at the time. And so when I adopted this thought process of making your own luck, there was definitely a lack of maturity involved in that. And so as I've grown, and especially as I've, left the corporate world and moved into private sector, and then been involved with many different groups, been around many, many high-level people, and seen how they act, on stage versus in the green room, in real life versus on social media, out with their boys versus around, their families, I really, really, really started to see who some of these people were, and that this whole like make your own luck or even just like high achieving world isn't necessarily all it's cracked up to be. So as I started like in the last few weeks, as I started really, really, really diving into what make your own luck now means to me with the information that I have today, having been through so much at a young age, being around, shooting for the stars, hoping to land on the moon, and then even, as I would like to consider a mature adult entering business world, doing business the right way, and, kind of trying to bring some positive karma due to some of the mistakes that I've made, and like just go out there and be a fucking good person, right? And so I've taken a new love or interest into what make your own luck really means. And so when you dive a little bit deeper, and I didn't dive deep enough to just get into a dick measuring contest on who was the original person to like say it the fucking first time. Like I said, in just the genre and the world that I was living in, I definitely heard it first from Rob Dyrdek. There is a famous quote out there from Bruce Lee, which is something along the lines of creating your own luck is by seizing opportunities. Like, I'm going to butcher that quote, but if that is of any interest of you, I highly suggest you go look at it. It is a good quote. I've just kind of adopted the simpler make your own luck version of that. So the more detailed quote just isn't of interest to me really, but the science behind it is. And that's the part that I really wanted to talk about. Is as I started diving down this rabbit hole, I found out that there was a gentleman named Dr. Richard Wiseman. Now, Dr. Dick Wiseman, I'm sure he had a great time in high school. But this dude ran these studies on people that either themselves, like, self-identified as lucky, or what other people would claim or classify as lucky. And then same thing with unlucky. And then I'm assuming he had some sort of a control, but he started running through some behavioral, some scientific, and some psychological studies and tests on these two different groups. And I mean, they got into some really cool, just really off the wall thought processes on the difference between how lucky people think and react or interact, as well as unlucky. And it's really, really wild to me when you start to really think about this with people that you know. Like, I guarantee you, if I set you down and I ask you, hey, who's someone in your life that you believe is lucky? You could tell me someone. And I ask you, who do you believe is unlucky? And you could probably tell me someone. and say, which one of these two people do you think has the most amount of anxiety? You're going to point to the person that is unlucky, right? And we start diving into some of the findings of these studies, and the fucking unlucky people were just riddled with anxiety and depression and other like actual physical elements and illnesses. I mean, it was absolutely mind-blowing what this like collective self-identifiable group of people that were like, oh, we're so unlucky. What they are, the word is suffering, what they are actually fucking suffering from. And then you look at the lucky group, and the majority of them were happy-go-lucky, that did not have stress, that were excited about life, that looked forward to the future, and were like excited about their past, like what all their past has like led them to. And none of these people were handed things. Like, these are all just like, for lack of better terms, normal motherfucking people. But they were like, they understood that everything that had happened for them, not to them, versus the lucky, right? And then you start really kind of peeling back the layers and seeing all the opportunities in this like glass half full life that this whole entire group of people are viewing life as. And then you look at this unlucky, and everyone thinks that everything has happened to them, that its glass is half empty, there's no opportunities, life, they're just stuck in this ever revolving cycle of just misery and depression and anxiety. And this is the reality that they have created literally in their brains that is now affecting them mentally and physically. Whereas the other group is not suffering from this. And like, you know, it's cool to see how, like, from a behavioral and psychological standpoint, because of these thoughts, like inwards on yourself, like these interperspective thoughts can affect you even seeing opportunities, right? You even being able to think outside of the box, because they ran so many quote unquote studies and quizzes and tests, and, you know, had all these fun just games for these two different groups, and to see how limited the unlucky people were on their thought process, and how like debilitating mentally that was for them to go through these. Whereas the statistics showed that the majority of the quote unquote lucky people, how they all, again, statistically, were able to just think way outside of the box, think for themselves, and have fun with these things, instead of being like, oh my God, there's so much, you know, test anxiety or stress built around what's going to happen if I fail this. Can you fail? What is failing? Like, it's just wild. So, for example, one of them, the test or the games, whatever you want to call it, was they handed them all newspapers, and they had them go through and count all the pictures. Or the description of it was, you know, they handed them the newspapers and they said, let us know how many pictures are in this newspaper. And the unlucky people, because they are so glass half empty and there is no ulterior options to solving the problem, that they literally went through and they counted every picture in the newspaper. The majority of them did. All of them did in the unlucky group. And they took just astronomically amount more of time to complete it. Whereas the lucky, because they're glass half full, they're looking for new opportunities, they're looking for ways to solve the problem, and there's multiple different ways of actually solving the problem, and they're not as stressed, which is like opening up different parts of their brain to fire and function correctly. And they go through, and like in big bold letters on the second page of the newspaper says, you can stop reading. There's 43 pictures inside the newspaper. And so they were all done. And so like I know that sounds like, well, how can that apply to my life personally or professionally? And it's just such a small, like, first of all, anything on this channel, anything that, like, you know, I'm very big on, if anything upsets you, it then becomes your responsibility to figure out why. Like, if you hearing that, it's like, well, that's fucking stupid example of, how someone could be lucky. Okay, that's a you problem. If you really think that is it, that's the extent of the information and education, that's as shallow as this entire conversation goes, then that's you choosing to not care enough to understand what I'm truly trying to say. So if you actually give a fuck about lowering your anxiety and your depression and fixing yourself literally, physically, and mentally, then I urge you to go do a little bit more research on what I'm talking about. Dr. Richard Wiseman, look him up. Also, I mean, fuck, you have ChatGPT, Google, you name it. Go fucking do a Google search on, like, how could I get luckier? Or, is there such thing as making your own luck? Whatever you want. But, like, if this irritated you, like, go fucking do it for yourself, motherfucker. Like, I'm not going to do it for you. I'm doing my best. But if you want to sit here and be combative over it, then that's on you. And I'm going to sleep just fine at night. Because it's the ones that actually listen to this and then do take it a step further to go apply this to their life to see how they could become luckier that I'm doing it for. And so if you are listening and you are wondering, like, how you can get luckier, it is just simply people who take more opportunities. And the reason I wanted to go a little bit more in full length on this topic in this podcast is because we're very, very big on, not chasing shiny objects inside of Uncaged, right? But if you sit there and you actually identify, like, what does it mean to take more opportunities? A lot of times when I look back and seeing some of the most quote-unquote success that I have seen in my career, it's because an opportunity presented itself, mind you, it being something that typically I'm not doing or haven't done, so it then has a scarcity meter attached to it. Like, how scary is this, bro? Like, this is where you start measuring risk versus reward, or how expensive is it, which again also comes down to scarcity, because if there's a value attached to it or an investment that does make you feel uncomfortable, it's up to you to find the way to make that money back plus some. Like, that is your responsibility, not whoever is presenting this investment or this opportunity to you. I tell people all the time, like, I don't understand, these people will spend money on coaching or go to an event or go to some sort of conference or whatever and not actually have a fucking game plan on how to make it beneficial for them. They expect to go somewhere and get fucking spoon-fed. And albeit some of the responsibility from an extreme ownership point of view from someone who, runs a coaching program, who does speak from stage, who does throw events and does write books and does do stuff like that. I take an extreme ownership in the fact that it is my responsibility to deliver the value, but I am also someone that has coaches, that does go to events, that does seek masterminds, that does read books. And when I am on that side of the table, it is my responsibility to collect the data, to ingest it, and to apply it. That's my responsibility. No one else's. I don't expect the coach or the author or the host or the venue to come sit right next to me and tell me to open fucking wide and shove it down my throat. So when you start to go through this process and you find these opportunities that present themselves, there, of course, is going to be something that makes you uncomfortable. And it is up to you to figure out, why does this make me uncomfortable? And then you have to decide, are you going to be the motherfucker that does what he says he's going to do when he says he's going to do it? Which means, hey, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to go all in. I'm going to take it seriously. I'm going to do the homework. I'm going to fucking read all the way through. I'm not going to skim. I'm going to involve myself in every opportunity. I'm going to meet as many people as I can. I'm going to give as much value as possible, whatever that is. That then becomes something that you have to be focused on. So when you go through this process and you say, fuck, man, like, this makes me feel uncomfortable, why? And then it's not staying, at the end of the day, if we just sit here and focused on the risk and not, mind you, not just like focused on the reward, but what was that vehicle to go from risk to reward? What is the work that you can put in? going back to what my wife said, when he puts his mind to something, he fucking does it. So if I sign up for a coaching program, I've already made up in my mind that I'm going fucking all in. And from someone that has coached and been coached before, it is when you build this strategy or this plan and you implement the action, no coach should be acting like it's their way or the highway. They're going to say, hey, this is what you should be doing. This is what has worked for us. This is what we've seen across all the clients that we've had prior, whatever the case is. This is what we believe, not just emotionally based on what we've seen work, but this is what the data is proving. So strategically, this is your best chance of success. Go down this route and then see what works for you. There is no one size fits all in fucking anything. There's no one size fits all. But you will never fucking figure it out if you don't fucking start. You have to go down that path. You have to see what works and what doesn't work. And when you find something that doesn't work, you don't just fucking give up there. You go either retrace your steps to see where you got derailed, or you find the fork in the road with where you stand and go down a different path. And then you go until you hit another fucking roadblock. And then you find a way over, around, or through that motherfucker or a different path. And then you go and you go and you go and you don't ever fucking stop. That's how you get lucky. That's how you lose your depression. That's how you get over your anxiety. That's how you solve your problems physically. That's how you solve your problems mentally. It's by doing the fucking work. It's by creating your own luck. It literally comes down to your motherfucking responsibility as a fucking man. It's your responsibility as a husband. It's your responsibility as a fucking father. It's your responsibility as a fucking leader to solve the problem, to figure it out, to keep going. Now, this isn't some like alpha male, like we're not allowed to have feelings and we're just machines and robots and we just do what we're told and we never fucking stop. We never rest. I'm against hustle culture. I'm against all the fucking shit that your life has to be hard. But it is up to you to continue moving forward every day. That 1% better daily. That's what it is. And it's up to you to do it because no one else is coming to save you. As much as I love Uncaged, as much as I love the camaraderie and the brotherhood, none of us are going to do the work for you. None of us are going to make you lucky. That solely comes down to you. Now, there's a lot of opportunities in Uncaged, but I guarantee you, the ones that are just sitting there whining and crying, which there's no one's handing them any type of passes. No one's giving them any opportunities. It's the ones that are in there, that are sucking it the fuck up, that are strapping their fucking boots up, and they're fucking marching on. Life's gonna life. Can't tell you how many times I've had people either trying to join Uncaged or whatever or not. I'm going to do it when this, blah, blah, blah. Life's crazy. Business is going nuts. Oh, someone just got fired. Oh, there was just a death in the family. Blah, 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 blah. Life is going to continue lifing. The issues of life never get easier. It's your responsibility to get stronger. How do you get stronger? It's by getting your reps in. So, like, when you go through this process and you yourself want to literally increase your luck, you have to take chances. You have to put in the fucking work. You have to deposit that effort, that inertia into these avenues before anything will ever come back. You want to win the lottery? You have to fucking play the lottery. And I'm not talking about idiot tax. I'm talking about life lottery. Like, you want to fucking strike it big, you have to invest into it. Time, money, education, frustration. But the frustration comes from learning. The frustration comes from iron sharpening iron. You're going to fucking try. You're going to fail. It's going to get frustrating. You get the fuck over it and realize that you just learned another way not to do it. You move on to the next. Maybe that fails. Cool. That's another route that I'm not going to go. And you do that until you fucking find what works. And when you find what works, you move on to the next obstacle. Once you get to that, you're going to keep trying and keep trying and keep trying until you find what's successful. And you keep on and you keep on. All of the most successful people that I fucking know, they're not chasing these shiny object, shiny object, shiny object. They're getting focused on one. They're fucking bullheaded on their dream life, and they are not fucking stopping till they get there. You do this shit long enough, eventually you will get there. Everyone that I know that's worth fucking knowing, that's worth having a life that one day you want to live, it's because they never stopped. They kept going. Did they rest? Did they recharge? Yeah, sure, absolutely, 100%. But they never stopped moving forward. So, guys, I love y'all. I hope this meant something to y'all. If y'all got any questions, please let me know. This is, we're getting close to our full year of doing this, so I'm very excited about, where Uncaged has come, what we have going on, the VIP program, the 30-day challenge. Like, there's just so much going on. We got the, Uncaged events, whether it be the quarterly retreats or the regional meetups. Like, so much is going on. Please get in, get plugged in, get involved, ask questions. We're here to help myself, any of the VIP members, any of the pack leaders. We will do whatever we can to help get you whatever information you're looking for, but a closed mouth doesn't get fed. So we love y'all. We'll see you soon. Peace.